All right, all right, all right. There we are. Welcome in, everybody. Actually, hold on just a second. Too much noise out there. How is everybody doing? I hope everybody is doing fantastic. This is episode 143 of Calibrated with Scott. I am Scott, of course. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in, Azam, always here, Pakistan. Good to see you. Otherwise intelligent people listen to a pothead instead of the Duran. First off, good compliment that otherwise you're calling everybody in here otherwise intelligent. Also, what does I'm confused. Can't you delineate good ideas from bad ideas yourself? Why does it have to come from a single source or something like that? It doesn't make sense. But thank you for coming in. Glad you spent your time in here to comment that. Welcome in, everybody. As you know, I'm going to go retweet my live stream and let everybody know that we have started. If you want to put the place where you are watching from, I'm always interested. So far, we have Poland, Amsterdam, Netherlands, Scotland, with your brother here in the 303, Denver. Nice. Good to see you guys. Greetings from Seattle, Albania. What is up, everybody? It is good to see so many people in here. Seattle, Washington, Sweden. We got a lot to talk about today, guys. Let me just go and tell everybody that I am now live. Live now. And then over to Twitter. And then we will go ahead and get started. We have a bunch of updates. We have a lot of things to talk about. So we are going to hop into it really quick. Live now. Bop, bop, bop. There we go. We are done with that. And now I am here with you. Full attention, undivided. Let's see. Sweden, Seattle, New Zealand, Florida, Nigeria, France, Estonia. Yeah, the earlier streams, the Euro Bros are in here, which is nice. Tucson, Arizona, Omaha, Nebraska. My girlfriend has family in Omaha, so all right, guys. Let's go ahead and get into this. Heading right over right away to the old Maparoni. We have some serious updates to talk about. Basically across the entire board. I've been seeing some people talk like, that the Russians are slowing down or something of this nature. I haven't seen that myself. I've been mapping. They're not necessarily capturing as much territory as maybe they were in December and November. Obviously, there's different conditions, there's different circumstances. The Ukrainians are, in fact, attacking in a good number of areas. So the Russians, the way I've perceived this entire conflict, anytime the Ukrainians want to attack, the Russians allow them to attack. They do damage to the Ukrainians, put the Ukrainians into a tough political position for which the military will then suffer for. And that just seems to be the continuing pattern. So I haven't seen anything change, really. The tempo seems to be about the same. I'm going to start here in the northern Oskol, Kharkov region. Russian forces have expanded their bridgehead out of Topolil, or Topoli, right on the Russian-Ukrainian border, and have extended out to the village of Kamyanka. They have also crossed the Oskil to the south of Kamyanka. Basically, we're about to see this entire northern part of the Oskil River connect with the Russian border all the way down to Kupiansk. So there's going to be a significant Russian presence now across that river. These are not easy things to accomplish, these crossings. And the fact that the Russians have crossed in 1, 2, and 3 separate areas is not a good sign for the overall condition of the AFU in this general area. All right, moving down. Just on the border of the Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast, here we have a Russian advance out of Novolubivka towards the village of Nove over here in the Donetsk Oblast. Again, this is just the Russians pushing across the Zhivyets River. There's been talk of a Ukrainian advance somewhere in this area. I think Nadia is what the Ukrainians are claiming that they captured. I don't have it under Russian control, so they might have just pushed the Russians out of there, and I didn't give the Russians an advance. Maybe they were never there. I don't really know. I don't know what to tell you guys. But that was a claimed Ukrainian advance in this area. All right, moving down to the Toretsk region. Russian forces have advanced out of the Toretsk. Ooh, that is not right there. Russian forces have advanced out of Kamensky and have been geolocated right at the tip edge of this road right here where this intersection is. So there are some sources saying that the Ukrainians are still able to push in to the city in this area, and there's still some gray zone in here. I haven't particularly seen anything to confirm that. There's some geolocations, but I have no idea what date they're from, and it's really hard to tell in Toretsk with how fluid the situation has been, and without being able to actually date videos all the time, because you can just release something that's older. And it would be, proof of Ukrainian presence in an area, and then they don't even exist. So the city of Toretsk is still in the gray zone on the outer edges here. It's kind of difficult to map, but I'm pretty sure that most of the Ukrainian presence in the city has now been forced out. All right, to the south of Toretsk, Russian forces have captured Oleksandrpol, which is actually in a fortification network. So there's actually some pretty dense fortifications in this area. This advance is just significant because this is an area where you wouldn't expect much Russian advance because of how dense the Ukrainian fortifications are. So every movement you see in this area right here speaks volumes to what is happening in this region. The fact that the Russians advanced this far could mean that this area is becoming weaker, and it's about time that this area gets pushed out to level the front and begin putting a lot of pressure on Kostantinivka. You're also going to see the same thing on this side of the canal. The Russians are going to begin to cross. There are reports that the Russians have actually expanded out in this area, although I have not seen a geolocation for that, so we are waiting still. All right, here in Shevchenko, the Ukrainian offensive, I'll put it in quotes there, through the outside of Pokrovsk, one of the two that was much vaunted during the Kursk collapse, has been removed. Ukrainian forces were removed from this position. And in fact, the deepest point where Ukrainian forces were geolocated in this area, a video emerged of women who had died in the assault. So in this particular assault, I'm not saying that this is a pattern. This is an anecdotal video I saw. 2 women were dead in the village of Shevchenko after they had conducted an assault in this area. So that's the first time I've seen women on the front line in a long time. Sometimes you get a Russian on the Russian side. There's women here and there, but it's very rare. All right. Moving down to the area just north of Andrivka, just south of Novoandrivka, Russian forces have just sort of leveled out the front here, closing this little pocket. And now the front line is flat, basically from Udachny. I mean, not so much in this exact area right here, but rather flat from Udachny down to Andrivka, heading towards the Dnepropetrovsk Oblast. Okay. I don't know. The female Ukrainians were not medics, Bubbles. The Russian ones could have been. Yeah. The Ukrainian women were, I mean, I guess it could have been medics, but they were very, very deep in Shevchenko. So it appeared more like they were a part of an assault unit. All right, moving to the Velika Novosilka front, Russian forces have advanced into the Sele here, just along the Morky Yali River right here, which heads up to this highway, which heads over to Constantinople. If the Russians can interdict this highway, then this entire area right here will be much, much easier for the Russians to advance through. A secondary advance on the Velika Novosilka front, just the area in between Novosilka and Veleni Pole has been captured by Russian forces. Don't think there's anything down in this area for now. Okay, now we're going to move into sort of the meat and potatoes of today's update, the Kursk and the Belgorod regions. First and foremost, Ukrainian forces have pushed into the Belgorod region. It's right on the Belgorod-Kursk border. If they go, let's see, probably like a mile north from here, they'll be in a mile, 2 miles, mile and a half. They will be in the Kursk Oblast. So I wouldn't think of this so much as a Belgorod offensive as more of a supporting offensive, trying potentially to pull Russian troops away from the Sumi region, which we're going to talk about here in a second. There's a lot going on. But this right here is the result of 5 days of offensive operations. We've seen numerous vehicles, mine-clearing vehicles, armored vehicles, numerous Ukrainian units on ATVs in this area as well, using light infantry and mobile tactics to try to penetrate deep. Russian FPVs, artillery, missile strikes have been operating here pretty consistently, and the Ukrainians have been taking some damage. There was an attack on what looked like a field refueling area with Russian helicopters utilizing HIMARS. The Ukrainians claim they destroyed 4 helicopters. I've seen from my view of the video, it looks like 2 helicopters were destroyed, and then 2 of the helicopters, the HIMARS, look like they missed. You can't tell shrapnel damage, but there were no resulting fires, and the video kind of cuts out pretty quickly. So, rather. If they had a bunch of destroyed helicopters, you think they would show them. But further than that, a Russian source did post a conversation saying that the Ka-52s that were involved were not damaged. I don't know how far that or how true that is. Either way, the strike was conducted, and it shows that what I think it shows is that the Ukrainians are basically unable to support any of their offensives into this region, whether it's Kursk, Belgorod, wherever, with air defense. They can't get air defense close. They can't manage their way around the Russian air power. So they're utilizing HIMARS for these strikes and reconnaissance drones for these strikes, which is not necessarily a waste of them, but it is rather distressing that the Ukrainians don't have any even manpad capabilities. I haven't seen a manpad in Ukraine in a very long time that wasn't in the west of the country. So I don't think that's a particularly good sign for the AFU, but they did take out some helicopters. So a good strike there. But yeah, this is 5 days of advances. They've just entered the very eastern edge of Demidovka here. Some sources are claiming the whole village has been taken, but again, this is only a mile or 2 over the border. This is basically nothing, very small, and I don't know what the Ukrainians are attempting to accomplish. It doesn't really seem like they're committing a ton of resources. It just seems like this is just another waste of time, which is going to result in more Ukrainian casualties. Okay, moving up to the Kursk region. Russian forces have advanced out, completely capturing the village of Gogolivka, as well as have advanced through the Sumi region and this portion of the Kursk region. So this update will be split. This side right here will be red. This side will be orange. And this really only leaves Oleshina and the border crossing here, which was sort of the propaganda center of this entire thing, both for the Russians and the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians have taken losses here. and the Russians. This was like the first area that the Ukrainians hit when they went into Kursk. So that's what remains of the Kursk region in this northern pocket. The southern pocket has still yet to advance much past Gievo. But yeah, so moving over to the actual Sumy region itself. Basivka has been completely captured by Russian forces. It is likely that this entire pocket will really just close like along the border here, and then the Russians will begin advancing down into the Sumy region. So Basivka has been completely captured. Russian forces have also entered the Sumy region through two separate incursion areas, one here in Vasilivka, and then one over here in Volodymyrivka. So two incursions separate from the main operational space, I would say, over here, and both moving in the direction of this highway here, which will eventually lead down into Sumy. If we go over and look at the topographical map, I can show you guys kind of what I think is happening and how far I see the Russians going. So let's go over and see this. Am I a pothead? I'm so confused. Do I appear high right now? And also, does drugs make anybody any less talented or intelligent? I honestly, I haven't seen any evidence to show that. If Einstein was smoking weed, would he not be Einstein? Like, what does that even mean? And then do you know why Brian went to prison? Brian went to prison because he refused to do training, because he saw how the U.S. was treating foreign countries while he was in service. So if you want to know why he went into jail, it's for refusing to train. This is called going AWOL, which he didn't leave. He just refused to do his required tasks. So yeah, weed makes you dumb. Okay. What, when you're high? I would love to see the study of weed reducing IQ or intelligence or anything. You people are fucking jokesters. All right, here we go. Over to the Sumy region. Here you can begin to see what I'm referring to. So the Ukrainians have, let's do this. The Ukrainians or the Russians have entered here, and in this area over here. The Ukrainians still remain in this area right here, and then in this area down here. So it's very clear what the Russian plan is most likely in this general area. I don't know about this area over here, but I would expect that the Russians will come down and basically try to control this entire bit of high ground right here, just outside of Sumy. Put themselves in a position where they can fire down on the roads behind Sumy. FPV drones can really harass Ukrainian forces in the city, much like we're seeing in Pokrovsk, much like we're seeing around Kupiansk. We see this in a bunch of different areas, but really the high ground is key here. Securing the high ground, and remember this village right here. I'm going to point to it in just a second back on my map, but this is down in the river, and I believe that this is where the Russians may stop. They may try to push past down onto this high ground, but that would bring them really close to the city, which is kind of dangerous for forces that are, it puts them in. It's just like Pokrovsk, where the Ukrainians have the city as defense and logistics, right? So they can attack very easily. So just moving down to the Pokrovsk area, the Ukrainians attack right from here, right? So boom, 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 they they can attack this area pretty easily. Whereas the Russians have to stage in Seledove or one of these littler towns out here. I'm not sure where they stage. And then they have to approach the front line, which is not as easy as driving through a city, right? Approaching the front line. And then they have to stage again outside and then attack and whatever assault they want to go through. Same thing around the Sumy region. You don't want to get too close to the city because this is just such a big area for so many troops to hang out in, and so much artillery can hide all over the place. You don't really want to put extreme pressure on it, but what I could see the Russians doing is pushing down here for Hotin. That is that town I told you to remember the name of. And then just sort of this string of villages right here along this part of the highway, basically this highway line right here, all the way over to Khotin. And then they will be within FPV range, artillery range of Sumy, and they can really start harassing this area and forcing the Ukrainians to pull a bunch of resources to the Sumy region away from areas like Pokrovsk, away from areas like Orikhiv, Polye, and Konstantinivka. So I believe that this is the Russian goal, and what it is going to look like is much like the, I'll actually draw a line here so you guys can kind of see what I think, and we'll leave it here to see how well that prediction works out. So we'll go probably just in the village, something like this right here, and we'll save it, and we'll go this color. Because why not purple? And we will title it, let's see, what should we title it? Sumy buffer line. There we go. Put it in the only for presentation. Oh, look, I have another one over there already. Never mind. I already did it. I can delete this. Look, I made a whole polygon for it. Boom. It's the exact same thing. Exact same idea. And look, this has already been pushed out further than I had it mapped already. So you can really see what I think is going to happen. This is sort of exactly like the Kharkov incursion right here. Force a massive Ukrainian rotation to stay in this area while the Ukrainians are already suffering from massive manpower shortages. All right. Thank you, guys. That is it for my mapping. We can talk about negotiations now. So there have been negotiations that have taken place in Riyadh today, Saudi Arabia, between the U.S. and Russian delegations on the resolution of the Ukraine conflict. Previously, Trump and Putin had a phone call, which entailed a temporary 30-day ceasefire on infrastructure strikes. Ukraine immediately crossed that line, didn't follow that ceasefire option, I guess they had for infrastructure strikes. And really, when you look at it, it didn't affect the Russians as much as it affected the Ukrainians. Ukrainian infrastructure strikes on Russian energy infrastructure is some of the, like gas and oil, is some of the most propaganda-worthy events for Ukraine right now. Their greatest successes. They're talking about the economic war on Russia, even though Russia's making more money than ever. The ruble is exactly where the Russian central bank wants it. So I lost my train of thought. I totally lost my train of thought talking about the ruble. The economic warfare. So the drone strikes have stopped, or the offer was the drone strikes stop, right? That only really affects the Ukrainians because the Russians are kind of hitting Ukrainian electrical infrastructure, energy infrastructure, but it doesn't. It's getting warmer. It doesn't pay off as much. So it was the perfect time to offer up this sort of fake ceasefire option, which the Ukrainians immediately went back on. We saw them strike areas west of Crimea in the Rostov region, sort of gas transit in that area, as well as blowing up the Shuja gas transit pipeline metering station on the Kursk on the Kursk-Sumy border, which was quite bright and quite visible for kilometers around when the Ukrainians were retreating from that area. So that ceasefire really didn't go into effect, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia came out and said that ceasefire was it had basically never even started because the Ukrainians broke it right away. Whatever you want to say, I don't think it was a real ceasefire option, and we're waiting to see what is going to come out of these new talks in Riyadh today. The conversation lasted more than 12 hours. It has wrapped up now. I think everybody is sort of waiting for a dual statement to come out from both the U.S. and Russian delegations that has been agreed upon. We'll see how that pans out. My position on it right now is that any offer coming from the West is one not made in good faith. It will be used for inappropriate reasons, just like Minsk 1 was, just like Minsk 2 was, just like the Hamas ceasefire was, and just like the Hezbollah ceasefire has been. It's just to buy time. The West does this every single time they begin losing, or they need a pause to reassert their position and go again. And if I'm a Russian delegation watching what's happening in Israel right now with Hamas and Hezbollah, I'm not making any deal with the West because I'm not trusting them as far as I can throw them. We'll see how these talks go. There was a leaked phone I think it was a Signal chat or one of those apps, a chat which involved Trump's administration, Pete Hegseth. They were openly sharing basically classified strike information on Yemen, and they just happened to include a journalist from, I believe it was The Atlantic, in that group chat. And it is the most embarrassing or pathetic looking way of communication for some of the most important people on the face of the planet. And then to just have it be an accident that there's a journalist in there. I think that they're intentionally leaking this stuff. I think they're looking for public reaction. And any of the leak stuff right now, guys, I would just pretty much ignore it. It's for your consumption is the only way I can see that. I highly doubt they created this group chat and we're sending like basically classified information over this group chat to each other and just happen to include a random number of a journalist. I don't buy it. It feels extremely fishy. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. But on my next episode, probably Wednesday night, I will be talking about the results of those peace talks after we've had some time to see reactions, see Ukrainian, European reactions. I'll go over that and through that. Yeah, it's just one big show. I agree. It feels like one big show to me. And I think that I hope that the Russians don't fall into the same trap because I want a peace deal in Ukraine. I want the war to end in Ukraine, but what the U.S. is doing right now is not going to lead to that. It's another feint. It's another, I don't know, it's like a lead by the nose situation. How many times can you fall for the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result? I don't get it. Alex Cristofaro has a good episode, or had a good video today on Black Sea ceasefire, his usual walk around, etc. Yeah. Do you think Ukraine will ever be interested in peace? That's a good question. I think that if the Ukrainian regime changes, the Ukrainians will be ready for peace. If it changes to a Banderite, then no. Ukraine is almost in the position of like a suicide bomber, it feels like right now. Like they have no way out. The only way they can survive is by keeping the war going and keeping Western attention and support flowing. So they have to keep doing these insane, asinine operations that have no strategic or tactical advantage, no benefits. There's no real objective. The only reason they're doing it is just to show that they're still doing it or to sabotage talks and stuff going on. So no, I don't think that Ukraine is ever really going to be for peace with the Russians, at least with the current regime in place. And until that changes, I don't see this coming to an end. Scott, how would you handle the talks with Russia if you were in Trump's place? It depends. I don't know the geostrategic realities that the U.S. is facing right now behind closed doors. I have ideas about what's happening, but I don't know where immediate threats are coming from. I don't know what the immediate needs of the U.S. empire are, basically. So if I was in Trump's position, like it or not, I mean, I'm not going to be some martyr who's going to go off the rails in the other direction and be like, we need to change this, and this. There are certain geostrategic realities that will not change, right? And I say this, the president doesn't change much. However, I would be running a incredibly professional looking operation from the outside. It would be high class all the way through and through. It would basically command respect from anybody that I went into the negotiating room with. What I see right now is a lot of clown show nonsense. I don't like it. I think it detracts from what needs to be done. And it's sort of just the way Trump operates. I would be very stern. And what was the question? How would I handle talks? I would be realistic. I think that that's the only way to peace. If I was actually trying to achieve peace, I would just be realistic with the Russians. I would lay it out exactly the way I see it, and then we'd try to find middle ground somehow. But if the analysis that I'm getting is basically the U.S. will not exist in 50 years if we don't separate Russia from China, and this is what we have to do. If I'm the sitting U.S. president, my job is to protect the United States and whatever. That's how I'm going to go about it. So I hope that answers your question. Kind of generic, but who's your favorite historical figure? I have no idea, man. My favorite historical figure. I don't have like a lot of guys like Napoleon, or they have like Caesar as their guy, or whatever. I can't think of a particular individual in the past that is like my favorite. I think Genghis Khan is pretty cool. The fact that he's like related to 1/3 of the world's population is pretty dope. But I don't know. That's just a joke. So same question. Why would otherwise intelligent? Oh, okay. Again, you're just spamming, so I'm just going to ban you, and there you go. Have fun. Goodbye. If you want to have a conversation and criticize me, that's all good. Let's do it. Go ahead, but you can't just keep saying the same thing over and over again. It's just pointless. Did you see Patrick Lancaster nearly get hit by a Ukrainian drone? Apparently, they have a bounty on his head now. Yep, they try to kill all. They try to kill all journalists. I think some journalists actually just got killed in the Kupiansk area. Dude assumes Scott knows history. Yeah, it's a big assumption. Question: do you think Russia will claim Odessa at the end of the conflict? Depends on if we see negotiations right now. If we see a negotiated settlement, then no. If the Ukrainians want to keep fighting, then yes, I fully believe that Russia will reach that point. Could the Russians not just use that defense north of Sumi to stage? They'd be hidden, concealed. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of foliage on the trees right now. So they will use it, but it's hard to hide nowadays. There's cameras everywhere. There's drones everywhere. It's kind of hard to stage. What you're going to see is just a slow infiltration, slow advance, and they're just going to take position after position. All right. Well, there was something else I wanted to talk about. The talks in Riad, the Sumi, the border. What else did I want to talk about? What else? Hold on just a second. Anything else? No. The only thing, the Garin drone attacks have changed. So a pattern that has recently come about is that Garin 2 kamikaze drones now basically attack one area. We've seen Zaporozhye, Kiev, Odessa, and Kryvyi get hit multiple times, like in a row, like 8, 9, 10 drones hitting the city all at the same time, hitting a target all at the same time. The Russians seem to just concentrate drones on one target a night or 2 targets a night or whatever, and really just hammer one position instead of sending drones all across the country and hitting multiple different targets like 1 or 2 times. Hey Scott, do you think what has affected the Russian ability to advance? This year and like 2023, fall of 2023, 2024, and winter have been relatively dry, so the ground hasn't been as churned up and as much of a mess as it usually is. We'll definitely see it, but yeah, it's just been rather dry in Ukraine. Question: do you think Russia will stop at the oblasts? If they don't, they will be fighting an insurgency-style war. No, I don't think Ukraine is very good for insurgency-style wars. I think that Russian intelligence services will be able to handle that incredibly well. They kind of do that already very well. So yeah, no, I don't think that it's, I mean, it's not Afghanistan, you know, it's not some mountainous region where everything's remote and people can hide. It's flat, it's open. It's not easy to run an insurgency in conditions like that. Do you believe the Ukrainians have an actual game plan? This Belgorod incursion is nuts. No, I don't. I think that they're just trying to show something. I think that they're about to lose a lot of territory in the Sumi region. I think they're about to lose even more territory in the southern Donetsk region and in Zaporozhye region. So they're just trying to pull attention. How long do you think it will take for Europe to remilitarize and not solely rely on the U.S., or is it doomed to fail? I think it'll take a couple of years, and I don't think it's doomed to fail. I think a lot of people really underestimate how things can be turned around for nations like this. And yes, it might not be a healthy thing for the longevity of the nation, but in the short term, you can create this change. It's not impossible. Europe will do it, and everybody will be scratching their heads about how they did it, and we'll know because they just stopped spending money on social programs, and that money is going to go into the military. Let's see. Question: what are the reasons for a slow advance now? Isn't the fall? Like I said, the Ukrainians are attacking constantly. The Russians just let the Ukrainians attack. Kursk has been a huge area. People forget that literally the Kursk pocket is still closing. Like that's it, hundreds of kilometers were just recaptured by the Russians. So it's not slow. It's just not quick in the area you want it to be quick. And that's just the difference there. Do you monitor the state of the U.S. military industrial complex? What can we really... Oh, that's a good reminder. The F-47, we can talk about that too. Realistically give Ukraine. Any Abrams tanks, anything else? I mean, what Ukraine needs is manpower. They need drones and artillery shells. If they can get those things, they're going to continue operating. The biggest issue right now is manpower. So we'll see what they plan to do about that. But mobilization has still not improved very much for them. So yeah. Hello, Mr. Braided. Or can I call you? What? How do you think? How long do you think it takes the Russia to demine and rebuild all of these destroyed areas? Oh, years. It's going to take years and decades, especially with all the anti-personnel mines that have been shot around. It's going to take forever. Does the CIA have a lot of military trained personnel? I don't think so. I think they have special units that they use and special task forces and stuff like that, but not like a ready army or anything. Question: will Russia take Kiev by VE? No, sir. Not a chance. Unless there's a major collapse. No. It took Russia almost a year. No, it didn't. I'm pretty sure the Ukrainians went in September, and the whole thing folded in February. So that was 5 months, 6 months, and the Ukrainians lost 50 to 70,000 men in irrecoverable losses, wounded and killed in action. So yeah, no, you're wrong. Oh, wait, what? Scotch. What is the role of the Ukrainian Navy in the face of the conflict? They don't have a Navy. Why even talk about the F-47? It's never going to happen. Well, no, this is not true. This is not true. The U.S. does have the capabilities to build this plane. I do imagine they're going to build this plane, and it is going to cost so much fucking money, you guys. It's going to be unbelievable. It's going to have problems just like the F-35 had, and it's going to take forever to get this thing out. Yeah, it's like it's this arm race stuff that always happens. And honestly, the best thing that the Chinese could do is just start producing all of these prototype systems and make the U.S. spend ridiculous amounts of money on development programs and stuff like this, just like the U.S. did to the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Force the Soviet Union to invest heavily in the space race, create like the Star Wars idea, and just force the Soviets to spend and spend and spend on these needless projects that really aren't giving them any massive advantages, and on the U.S. side are kind of fake. Any news on the supposed 50 retired Abrams to Ukraine? Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything. I don't think the Ukrainians are going to be receiving very many tanks anytime soon. No, I think basically what's on the table right now is Istanbul Plus. If the Russians can achieve that, get the Ukrainians to retreat from those annexed regions, that will be probably actually a huge win for the Russians, because then if they just want to restart, they can. That would be an acceptable ceasefire, in my opinion, for the Russians. The Russians will just, I mean, if you give up Kherson, Zaporozhye, Kramatorsk, all of that, there's probably no need to even restart the conflict. But yeah, no, I think Istanbul Plus would be the maximum. Novorossiya is like the threat of what happens if this doesn't work. Kursk, Sitrep, not much going on. Small counterattacks and attacks here and there. Nothing significant. Question. Do you think the U.S. will ever catch up on hypersonic missile technology? We're getting left behind. I don't think it particularly matters. But I mean, yes, if somebody has something that's better than the U.S., I'm sure the U.S. will work very, very hard to develop something equal or better. Let's see. Kalibrated, how significant is the recent Ukrainian strikes on the Russian helicopters? I mean, as significant as losing helicopters is to the Russian army. I think 2 of the 4 helicopters were destroyed outright. There could have been damage to the other 2, but the HIMARS do appear as though they missed on the video. No telling, really, what if the crews were there. I have no idea. But the Russians could probably lose 30 to 40 helicopters and be okay. Just honestly. So Scott, honest question. Why are you bald so young? Because my dad's genetics, I mean, I look exactly like my dad and my uncle and my entire dad's side of the family, all bald, all at 19, 20 started going bald. So it's just kind of in the family. And honestly, who gives a shit? Hair sucks. Imagine waking up and having to do stuff to it in the morning. Bro, I just get up, hop in the shower, out the door. We're good. It's so nice. What type of helicopters were they? Ka-52s and Mi-8s. I don't know which were which, though. It was like the thermal vision version, thermal camera from on the drone. You couldn't really make out which was which. Did you see the Alex Jones dude got killed by a Ukrainian? I saw that somebody from his show got killed. I didn't see who did it. Bald cope. Okay. No, it wasn't steroids. I was balding much before I started any gear or anything like that. Nope. I was 18, 19, out of high school and my hairline started to go back. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. Do stuff in the morning like wash it? No, I wash my face and my head. It just takes 30 seconds. I can hop in the shower in 2 minutes, get out, don't have to dry my hair. It's so nice. Question: do you think if Ukraine keeps breaking the energy infrastructure ceasefire, we will see the Oreshnik again? No, I don't. I don't know what everybody's obsession with that weapon is. I don't. It's not supposed to be used. They just demonstrated that they could use it. That's all they did. They demonstrated it, basically broke the INF with it, and that's it. Bald just like Putin. Putin has more hair than me. Do the curtains match the drapes? Well, I'm blonde on my head. I have like a reddish beard, and then my body hair is dark, so no. I don't know what happened to Name. He's gone. Or not in here today, at least. Do I still have beef with David D? Pity and sadness for that sorry human being? Sure. Beef? No, he's an ant to me now. I don't even acknowledge his existence really. So no. It's been a much nicer time. I muted him like 9 months ago or a year ago, and it's just been so nice. You will notice that your life changes not a single bit when you don't listen to what he says. He's always wrong, so he's like poison to anybody who touches it. It's crazy. All right, guys. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. This has been episode 143 of Calibrated with Scott. I will be back probably Wednesday with a rundown of the negotiations in Riad that just wrapped up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will catch you on the next one. Goodbye, guys.